Moving on to the latest efforts on Capitol Hill to close the detention facility at Guantanamo Bay. While some reports indicate that a hunger strike there, which has now lasted nearly 6 months, is starting to slow down, some members of the Senate aren't ready to give up on closing Gitmo. So the Senate Judiciary Committee held a hearing this afternoon on closing the facility and what implications that might have on our national security and our record of human rights. RT's Liz Wahl was there, and she joins me now. Hey Liz, based on what you heard today in the hearing, is there some will now in Senate to close this detention facility at Gitmo?
Yeah, I think so, Sam. Today was the first significant congressional hearing on closing Guantanamo Bay that we have heard since 2009. Of course, President Obama ran on the platform that he was going to shut this base down. Of course, that has not happened, but we did hear from the chairman presiding over this committee today, Senator Dick Durbin, and he took at least some of the blame. He said Congress should at least take some of the blame for the fact that this base has not closed down. He said, and that's due in part to the law, the National Defense Authorization Act, that states that, or that blocks funding of the transfer of detainees. So in order for this transfer to happen, Congress has to take action, and it's hope, Sam, that today is going to be the start of that process.
Right, whether it's Congress or the White House, it seems like both sides have either passively or actively kept this facility open. I want to play a clip here from retired Army Brigadier General Stephen Zanakis. He was testifying at the hearing, and here's what he said about the hunger strike at Guantanamo.
The treatment of hunger strikers at Guantanamo compromises the core ethical values of our medical profession. The AMA has long endorsed the principle that every competent patient has the right to refuse medical intervention. The World Medical Association and the International Red Cross have determined that force feeding through the use of restraints is not only an ethical violation, but contravenes common Article 3 of the Geneva Conventions.
Liz, is it fair to say that the recent renewed attention, I should say, to Guantanamo, whether it's this hearing, whether it's the president's decision to start talking about it again and lifting the prisoner transfer ban to Yemen, all this stuff we've seen in the last few months are a result of this hunger strike that's nearing 6 months?
Oh, well, it would seem so. The hunger strike was mentioned several times today throughout the hearing. Very interesting testimony from that retired Brigadier General, that clip that you just played. He went on to say that this force feeding interferes with the doctor-patient relationship, that essentially puts the physician in a position where they are using force, and it kind of disrupts that trust that should be there with this doctor-patient relationship. Also, Senator Dianne Feinstein spoke out, was one of the senators that spoke out, saying that this hunger strike is a form of protest, that it's unacceptable, and she was among those that said that these detainees should be transferred to another high security facility. So whether or not this hearing would have gone on today, Sam, if this hunger strike did not take place, it's unclear, but certainly lawmakers here have taken notice.
So the name of this hearing, I mean, the hearing was focused on the implications of closing Guantanamo. What were some of the concerns raised by members about closing the facility or keeping the facility open? The costs, the human rights, national security?
Yeah, a lot of lawmakers and witnesses that testified today said that keeping this base open is a threat to national security because it emboldens detainees and kind of radicalizes them when they're based there. Also, human rights issues were brought up, the fact that it's unethical to hold detainees indefinitely without charge or trial. You brought up the cost. The cost was brought up today. Senator Cruz had mentioned that the enormous cost to keep this space open, over $400 million per year and per detainee. The figure that was cited today, $2.7 million. So that's a lot more than what it costs to keep a federal prisoner, for example. It's interesting because Senator Cruz was the one that brought up this fear, and this is what you're hearing from critics, that fear that the base, what would happen if the base was closed. He raised the question, what would happen to these detainees? Where would we put them? There's no backup plan. There's no better option. And he casted doubt, or he raised doubt, that if these detainees were to be released, that they would just drop their arms and embrace world peace. The chairman, Senator Dick Durbin, did kind of address this issue. If we could play that clip.
No one is suggesting that closing Guantanamo is risk-free, or that no detainees will ever engage in terrorist activities if they're transferred. But if a former detainee does return to terrorism, he will likely meet the fate of Saeed al-Shahiri, the #2 official in al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula, who was recently killed in a drone strike.
That's a really interesting clip there, Liz. I mean, the senator's making the point that we shouldn't be basing our entire strategy in Guantanamo off this fear in the future that someone might come back and commit an act of terror against the United States. But he was also speaking to this idea that, given the troubles at Guantanamo, the White House wants to rather kill people rather than lock them up now.
That kind of, it appears that that's what the senator was saying. I think he was trying to ease the minds of those that fear what's going to happen, that say that this is going to happen, that it's going to get dangerous if they are. I don't know if that was the appropriate way to put people's minds at ease, but that is what the chairman said today, Sam.
Yeah, he probably wasn't trying to take that perspective. That was RT's Liz Wahl. Thank you so much.